Well, good morning, everybody. I'm delighted that to be here today as the headline sponsor of this event. And I guess the fact that a mobile operator should be headline sponsor at a cybersecurity event does reflect the pace at which things are changing in the way that data is consumed today and will be in the future. And we've already heard quite a bit about that. Now, in the next 20 minutes or so, I do realise that it's me between you and coffee, so I will be deploying some techniques. I will show you a video at some point. You will hear some music, but the thing that really is going to keep you awake is I'm going to ask you to use the keypads that you can see deployed on your chair. So I'll be asking you to familiarise yourself with those. And finally, I will actually be announcing a new product and service today that you'll be the first to hear about. So quite a lot to pack into the next 20 minutes. But hopefully, by looking at some of the trends that we're seeing in the mobile industry and some of the issues facing IT professionals as a result, we can then see the relevance of the new product that we're going to be launching. Excuse me. So get ready for some audience participation, because in the very first upfront, what I want to do is ask you a question. So you'll see on the next slide the question: what percentage of mobile phones in the UK do you think are now smartphones? You press 1 for 0 to 25%, 2 for 26 to 50%, 3 for 51 to 75, or 4 if you think it's over 75%. You're going to have 10 seconds to do this, so press your keypads now, please. I did tell you there'd be music, and that is the music. Aha. So there's a very small minority who think there's less than 25% of smartphones in the UK. There's quite a lot think it's over 75%. Well, quite interestingly, actually, that people, I guess most people got it in the right zone. Because if we look at the next slide, what you can see here is the inexorable rise of the smartphone. And you can see it by country, and the UK is suitably coloured orange. And you can see that not only is the graph going steeply upwards over the last couple of years, but also the UK is leading the way. And adoption is going to continue to increase. We absolutely know that. And we know that because actually, when we look at new sales of phones every month, there are over 80% of new phones that are sold are actually smartphones. So we know that this trend that's already started to increase, and just in terms of the answer, by the way, this slide was through to December. The answer is now over 55% of phones in the UK are actually smartphones. If I was here in 2 years' time, you'd see that be a dramatically different slide. I think one of the key questions for this audience that's arising is, as the rise in the number of people having smartphones continues, how many of them will want to use them for work? So I want you to once again look at the next slide, because we've seen some research that suggests that up to 40% of people in work use their smartphones one way or another for work. In your experience, what percentage of your workforce uses their own devices for work, do you think? So, if you think it's less than 10%, press 1, 2 is up to 25, 3 is 26 to 50, 4 is 51 to 75, and 5 is over 75%. Press the number that you think is relevant, and you've got a few seconds from now. have a look at the results. A real spread there, actually. Really interesting spread. But once again, people there's a bit of a normal distribution, I guess. I think as I've already said, around about 40% we believe is the average, which is what's come out here. But these are people using their phone at work to connect to your networks, that are doing it every day. And actually, it's not just smartphones now, is it? Because we've seen the rise of a new category of device that's that's also been talked about, and you can see that tablets, this new category, is going up in the same way that smartphones has gone up. Absolutely meteoric rise, led by the iPad, but being hotly pursued by other manufacturers, with Android, with the new Windows 8 operating system that's coming out, with BlackBerry, etc. So you can see that whilst we believe that iPad will continue to dominate, there are a whole range of other devices which are in the grey that will go up as well. My personal view is that this slide is fairly conservative, actually. People seem to want, they like tablets. I've got one myself. I'm using it right now. It's highly convenient. Excuse me. The thing that's staggering for me about some of the things that I've talked about in the first 2 or 3 minutes is that if you go back 2 to 3 years, most enterprises would dictate what mobile technology the workforce uses and would closely control access. But there's been this radical shift now where employees expect to bring their own device to work. They expect to be able to connect to the internet, to the email system, etc. And that is a trend that won't stop. And we heard lots of interest, and actually we can't control in many respects. And I think we had lots of interesting insights earlier from Sadie around the fact that perhaps what we need to do is look to the future and make sure we embrace this, because we can't stop it. So what are we going to do about it? Because this is happening right now. And Sadie referenced a young daughter. I've got 2 teenage sons. They will not want to go to work and not be able to access the things that they are used to accessing every day. There's a big generational shift as well as anything else going on here. Now, if you look at the next slide, what you can see is the predictions over the next 3 years. Excuse me. And it's estimated that over the next 3 years, actually in the UK workforce, there will be a rise from 33 to 40% of smartphones, actually authorised smartphones, if you like, provided by the enterprise, and that in tablets, the rise will be from 3% to 9%. In part, that's a growth market, but my personal view is, A, that this slide is very conservative, and B, that we will see a bigger demise in the laptop as the tablet takes over as the device of choice. I also think in 3 years' time, I can't imagine a mobile phone being shipped that isn't a smartphone, actually. So I think all mobile phones virtually will be smartphones as we move forward. So some huge shifts going on there. All about usability and preference, actually, being driven by the consumerization of IT. Actually, for the first time ever, consumers are ahead of the game. Consumers, individuals, know what they want from their devices, and they're expecting to walk into the workplace and be able to use them. Now, of course, why is this happening, and what are the benefits? Well, there are significant benefits, of course, in that many smartphone and tablet solutions have led to huge increases in efficiency and new innovations that have helped businesses and the public sector alike. Lots of examples, and we've heard 1 or 2 mentioned earlier. Examples of councils who are now actually providing documentation for their members on iPads rather than this hugely costly routine of printing out materials, all the cost that, involved with that and the cost to the environment. Excuse me. Senior board members who expect to receive their documentation on iPads rather than in paper. And there are other specific examples with specific applications. And there's a good example that Orange launched recently, which is the Care in Motion solution, where actually community-based nurses don't have to go back to the office to pick up patient records. They don't have to go back to find out where they're going, because they actually pick up their visits on their smart device in the morning, and they have the patient records securely downloaded to that device in the morning. The nurse is happy because they're not having to go back to the office all the time. It leads to a much smarter way of working. It's a virtuous circle. There are lots and lots of benefits associated with these new devices. So extending IT applications out to the user has huge benefits. It's a good thing. And it's a completely new way of working that we're going to see, I think, hugely increase in the future, and thereby deliver much more innovation to the front line. So, I think, in summary, then, the consumerization of IT is opening up this huge range of possibilities to mobilize applications on smartphones and tablets. On top of this, the bring your own device, or the BYOD phenomenon as it's known, is a factor that will continue to grow as individuals bring their own device to work and expect to use it. I think this is a fantastic opportunity for your business. We see these huge benefits that I've talked around innovation, around productivity, around customer satisfaction. And we see that these benefits actually apply in the private and the public sector alike. There's also anecdotal evidence, by the way, that this trend leads to much better employee engagement, as employees are happier to be bringing their devices to work, but also are happier in the way that they're working because of the information that they're able to access from those devices. So, I think the benefits are pretty clear. I think the trends are obvious and unstoppable, actually. And the examples of business benefits are growing. So what's the problem? Well, I think you know what the problem is, but before we get to that, let's have another quiz, just to check that you're still with us. Are we going to have a quiz? Yes. So, it's completely anonymous, so be honest. How active is your business currently in mobile security? 1 is very active, 2 is quite active, 3 is not really, 4 is not at all. So, 10 seconds from now, please input your number. Feels like you're at home on a Monday afternoon, doesn't it? Yeah. So, over 40% of you, not really or not at all active in mobile security, which is actually no surprise given the rapid rate at which this thing is evolving. It's no surprise. Clearly, there are a lot of people who are starting to get involved, and a minority who are very involved. But it's interesting, and I see this as we've kind of heard from earlier speakers that the mobile is the big issue moving forward. It's also the big opportunity as far as I can see. So I asked What's the problem before we did that little survey? And I guess the problem is that with the proliferation of new devices and operating systems, it opens huge challenges for everybody in this room, for all IT professionals. Firstly, in keeping your data secure, keeping that data out of the hands of others, and that smartphone revolution has made that more difficult. The huge memory capabilities on each device do cause big issues. We heard that earlier. I can remember an early BlackBerry where we were all amazed at 65 meg being available on the device. The device in my pocket today has 64 gig. And so just one handset lost or misplaced with sensitive data on it can constitute a massive security breach. I think also because, and you know, it was a point that was raised by John earlier. You know, many devices now in use were initially devised for the consumer market. They don't have all of that security functionality that was built into the early enterprise mobile software that was, for example, available on the BlackBerry services. But the other major challenge, and we've heard a lot about it this morning, we've seen all their pictures, is that cybercrime in many ways has moved on from individual hackers to serious organised crime. And most businesses spend considerable amounts protecting their office IT infrastructures and networks, as you know, with anti-malware software on laptops and firewalls being two key examples. But it's important to recognise, and I think probably everybody does, that today's powerful smart devices can be a major chink in the IT security armour. So how best to tackle these challenges? Well, what I want to do is look at six areas that we think are worth considering in developing a security solution around mobility. I don't want to dwell on 5 of them. I'll spend a little bit more time on the 6th. And then just for clarity, after coffee, back in here, I believe there's a seminar that will go into much more detail, so you'll be able to get into the detail of this. But we think there are six key areas, and in terms of the first one, I think what's critical is if we reflect on the pace of change, and we've seen it in those graphs, the adoption of smartphones. I think it's really critical to re-examine your business's mobile strategy. Look at what new mobile opportunities are there for your business and how you can best benefit from that strategy. Some of the traditional mobile relationships will not be delivering the innovation that your business needs. I think secondly, it's important to segment your base. Target strategies to identify the individual needs of different users, different business units and different functions, because they will be very different. I think the third thing is about taking that information and creating that application and device platform strategy. Is there an off-the-shelf solution? Does one need developing specifically? And which platforms will you support? Tablet, smartphone, BlackBerry, Android, Apple, Windows, or a combination thereof? My personal view is, given the bring your own device phenomenon, it's got to be a package. It's got to be more than one operating platform. Fourthly, we would recommend devising new policies to regulate the use of personal devices by your employees. What data will you allow them to access and manipulate, and when? And I think all of this absolutely critically requires clarification around your organisational approach. As you know, mobility can span a number of different areas even within your IT organisation, across user support services, security and risk management, sourcing and vendor management. Getting joined up from an organisational point of view, getting those areas working together with clarity, I think can ensure that you can realise the opportunity along with the security that you need. And finally, we'd recommend sourcing new management tools for manipulating security, containing costs, enforcing the policies, and regulating behaviours across those multiple device platforms that I talked about. And that final point actually has given rise to this rapidly developing area of mobile device management, or MDM as it's known. And MDM is the foundation that underpins all other aspects of any strategy or policy, we believe. Excuse me. But how can you evaluate the available tools in the marketplace to make best choice? Well, look, as with any evolution of technology, we know that there are a number of players in the market, and that will accelerate, actually. But I guess the challenge for you as IT managers is, how do you pick the right solution for your business and ensure that it has longevity? And we believe there are 4 key areas that you should look at when you consider it. Firstly, it's about managing a fleet of devices from different manufacturers with different operating systems. Secondly, we think it's about the security of those devices, ensuring they're not a soft target for hackers, or that data isn't compromised if the device is lost or stolen. Thirdly, it's about dealing with access, ensuring that data is securely transferred through a private network. And fourthly, it's about applications, managing what and how applications can be used on these multiple devices and how to deploy them. But most importantly, we believe that to achieve all of the above, you need an end-to-end solution to make it most effective. And today, what we're launching is our new solution to meet those needs. That, if you were looking for the unique proposition here, we believe it's around combining the security of our network with the mobile device management platform. And we call it secure mobility from Orange. So it's an end-to-end security solution, and it embraces the 4 key pillars that we've just outlined, which combines our mobile device management solution from Mobile Iron with Orange's data VPN for secure access. It's designed to deliver the solution that gives you the confidence to deploy smartphones for business benefit, whilst knowing that the solutions will be secure. It's going to extend your security and governance policies into the mobile world, making use of those you've already specified and invested in, which we think is critical, and therefore removing a large chink in your security armour without having to install a whole load of new infrastructure. It's going to realise smart and safe distribution of mobile business applications, which we've heard a lot about earlier, allowing you to control who's using what and when. It's going to maximise productivity and innovation, therefore having a positive impact on customer satisfaction, we believe, and more engaged employees. And it's going to empower the mobile workforce through providing them with secure access to confidential and critical data, wherever they are and whenever they need it. All driven by applications which are easily deployed in your own application store. Excuse me. Underpinning all of this is absolutely a new digital infrastructure. And you've probably seen announcements in the press recently from ourselves around the new digital infrastructure that we're creating, one that's fit for the 21st century. We've already combined our network, well, got it working together with the T-Mobile network to create the biggest 3G network in the UK. And we've just announced further investments of 1.5 billion or 1.5 million a week for the next 3 years in improving the speed, capacity and resilience of our network, which we think is a critical element when you're considering any deployment of this type of device. You've probably also seen our discussions with Ofcom, and we believe that Ofcom are minded to allow us to release part of our 1800 spectrum for 4G services. And once we get formal ratification of that, we will launch 4G. We believe we'll be the first in the UK to launch 4G, which will deliver incredible speed instantly in those areas where we deploy it. So just before I wrap up, I did promise you a video. Let's let's roll the video.
When people build their lives around the technology and applications they like best, no wonder they want to bring them into work. And because these new devices are so useful and versatile, many business leaders also want to introduce them to their organisations. But adding devices from different manufacturers with different operating systems can be a real security headache for your network and for your IT department. So now, there's something else new in town, something to give these powerful new devices the welcome they deserve, whether they've been brought in by your staff, by your company, or your organisation. It's called Secure Mobility from Orange. It's the end-to-end solution for securing and enabling the smartphones or tablets you'd like your workforce to use on your network. Using Data VPN from Orange to help keep all traffic private and all internet access managed, while integrating seamlessly with your existing IT infrastructure. Using mobile device management to monitor every device in use, so you can remotely wipe or delete them if they fall into the wrong hands. But the best thing about Secure Mobility is the way it gives your staff direct, fast access to the enterprise applications, data and resources they enjoy back in the office for greater productivity all round. And because Secure Mobility comes from Orange, it's got all our flexibility, versatility and know-how built in. So you can give your workforce the applications they like to use most on the devices they love, to make them more productive while helping keep your data secure at all times. Secure Mobility from Orange.
Okay, I think she said it a lot better than me actually, but there you have it. We've got a changing landscape, rapidly changing landscape, huge opportunity. I don't think we should lose sight of the huge business opportunity that this affords us, but not without its issues for IT professionals. We think we can help you on the journey, and we believe that we've got the infrastructure to support you. So if you want to learn more, do come back in here after coffee where there's going to be a seminar with more detail. Please do visit the stand where we've got people who can talk you through things. But apart from that, thank you for listening and thank you for your participation.